Welcome to everyone. Today's video is about the brief story of English literature. My name is Julian David Moreno Vivas and my professor is Juan Manuel Martinez. Here we have the table of content. First of all, I have the introduction, that is the presentation of my video. Secondly, I have here a timeline with some periods or eras. Third, we have some authors with a general description and some quotes. And finally, I put a conclusion with a question that is an interesting question. Here we have Geoffrey Chaucer. He was one of the most important exponents in the English literature in the Middle Ages or medieval period. It was characterized because it was dominated by the Catholic religion, secondly, we have here William Shakespeare. He was also one of the most important exponents of the Renaissance and almost modernity, because he born in the Renaissance and died in the modernity in that transition. And then we have Edgar Allan Poe. He born in the late modern period, in the Enlightenment, in the 19th century. And then we have the Beat generation, that is in the late modern period, in the 19th and 21st century. First of all, we have Chaucer. As I said before, he is one of the most important exponents of English literature. He born in the Middle Ages or medieval period, at least from the 5th to the 15th century. In that era, they spoke Middle English. He is the author of the Canterbury Tales. It's a total of 24 tales. He is the father of English language, because he started to produce English writing pieces. And also, and something that is remarkable, is because he wrote The Lady of Bath, which is one of his most popularized and retold stories, because the BBC retold this story. And something that is unusual is about his writing, because he wrote English in something that was uncommon in that era, because people used to speak French and Latin. And here I put an excerpt of The Wife of Bath in order to invite you to read it. It said, "Yet you shall live if you can answer me. What is the thing that woman most desire? Beware, they ask and say as I require." If you want to find the answer of this question, I invite you to read it. And then we have William Shakespeare. He is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language, the world's greatest dramatist. I said it because he is one of the most important English authors. He's not the father, he's the exponent. He wrote in almost modern English using new vocabulary. He wrote about love, beauty, politics, and mortality. He wrote a sonnet. He wrote a total of 154 sonnets. One of them is about the romance between Caesar and Cleopatra. And then we have here three masterpieces. One of them is Romeo and Juliet, that is about beauty, love, and death. The second is Macbeth. It's about politics and death. And the third one is a Hamlet, that is about also politics. Not at all, it's about a kingdom and mortality. Here I put an excerpt about King John, Act 4th is Scene 2, line 84, he said, "We cannot hold mortality's strong hand." It's related to death, that we are not immortal. And the last is about Romeo and Juliet. It's Act 4 and Scene 5, line 33. It said, "Death lies on her like an untimely frost upon the sweetest flower of all the field." It is related to when you miss someone, when you saw someone die. And then we have here Edgar Allan Poe, one of the most important in the exponent of enlightenment, and he also wrote dark stories that using unreal elements. Here we have the three most common categories. The first is horror, the second is detective fiction, and the third is science fiction. Another fact is because he was born in the USA, and he is widely regarded as a central figure of Romanticism in the United States and of the American literature. Something that he every remark is because he wrote poems, short poems and short stories using dark elements and complex vocabulary. We have here a tale collection, that is a collection of tales of his stories about him, or he wrote. The second is the Black Cat, and the third is the Raven. The Raven has a modern adaptation by The Simpsons. And then we have here the Black Cat. That is a quote, that is a piece, and it's an excerpt. It said, "Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house." This is a piece of the book. Finally, we have here the Beat Generation, that it was composed by three authors: Jack Kerouac, William Burroughs, and Allen Ginsberg. And I'm going to expose you about Allen Ginsberg. He was an American author. All of these three authors were Americans. He vigorously opposed to militarism, economy, materialism, and sexual repression, something that was so usual in the USA and nowadays is not common, but it has some excerpts pieces. Secondly, he embodied various aspects of this counterculture with his views on drugs, because he wrote in one of his autobiography about drugs and how people use it to destroy themselves. And also he founded the San Francisco Renaissance, or he was part of the San Francisco Renaissance, and New York Beats. New York Beats was composed by those three authors, and also those three not only wrote, they also inspired other authors such as Bob Dylan. And the reason that they wrote about those themes, such as economic materialism, and sexual repression, is because they also lived in the Cold War era. And then I put an excerpt of one of the most important poems that he wrote. That was the explosion of everything. It's the reflection of the old America era. And it said, "I saw the best mind of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, raging themselves through the Negro street at dawn looking for an angry fix." He also write by this style because he lived this, and he also want to send to all the word and message. And finally, I'm going to answer this question as a conclusion, and that is it. What is literature? In my opinion, literature is culture, knowledge, and art. It's art because literature is not only writing, it's also painting, oratory, as Plato did, and also some poems or some lyrics that is part of literature. Secondly, knowledge because we reflect our thoughts as other authors did, such as um, Shakespeare, that he revolutionized the English language and also his culture, because in some writing works we can notice how other people write in that era and which elements was the most important. Thank you to everyone. See you there.